If you thought about coming to Bali, you definitely will have considered some popular areas like Canggu, Seminyak, even Uluwatu. But there's one place on the east coast that you might not know quite so much about, and that's Sanur. Now, Sanur has a bit of a reputation. It's nicknamed Snore for being popular with retirees and families, but is that really a fair nickname? Today, I'm going to take a walk down the most popular high street, Jalan Danau Tamblingan, to show you some of my favorite places and to see what kind of people are out and about. So I'm starting at the bottom of Jalan Danau Tamblingan, and behind me just over here is Massimo. It's always pretty popular as an Italian restaurant, but you'll always see people eating ice cream any time of the day. It's about midday on a Wednesday now, and there's 5 people in the queue. It's really good gelato, the cheapest around. So there's definitely a lot of options and choice even along this high street. Not always quite so easy to walk on the road. At least it's an ambulance that's blocking my way. If I get hit by traffic, at least there's someone there to protect me. Not quite so easy to walk along this part, but generally the pavements are pretty walkable, which can't always be said for all the other places in Bali, so that's a plus for Sanur. Although it's known as a pretty quiet place, there's obviously still pretty touristy. You'll find loads of shops like these ones, selling knickknacks, touristy things, and it's really easy to find good restaurants and get massages and things like that. Very easy to find. So Sanur's main high street, Jalan Danau Tamblingan, is broken up by all these little side streets that run towards the beach. This is the first one, which is going towards the Jung. Now, after the Jung access to the beach, you actually get to a bit of an interesting area along the high street. It's a bit different. It's not typical and not the same as the rest of the high street. You don't see any shops and stuff. It's a little bit shaded. The road's not so good for driving, but at least it's a bit quiet. And it's quite an interesting part to break up the high street. This one is Hyatt Regency behind me. It's the main reason why there's no shops and stuff in this area. So it's a nice little break. I think I'm gonna jump a bit further up the street to get back to the shops before it starts raining. So after you get out of that wooded bit from Jalan Danau Tamblingan, you get to this part here, which I'm here pretty often. This is Paradise. It's one of the best gyms in the area. It is a bit more pricey than alternatives, so I would say maybe that's a bit of a disadvantage with Sanur. It's a bit smaller, so you don't have so many options, so it could be a bit more expensive, but that's a good facility to have. They've got good healthy food and gym and kind of a co-work space, so that's pretty cool. Paradise Gym. That one there is also a spot we really like called Taquisa. Probably some of the best Mexican food in the area. Definitely worth a try. Another thing I do like about this high street is, although it's a bit busy because it's quite a small road, carries a lot of traffic, it is pretty easy to walk with pavements, which you don't get so much in other areas like Seminyak that I'm familiar with. So I appreciate that. And just next to me here, this is the sign for Tree Bar, which is as far as I went on my beachfront guided tour. This will take you straight to the beach with free parking. Even though Sanur is supposed to be a bit less developed or popular than other areas, I just saw behind me over here, there's a sign for a cat cafe, which is a bit, you know, niche. So definitely you can still find a variety of things going on in Sanur, which is pretty cool despite its reputation. There are also quite a few bars in Sanur. I mean, they're not clubs, so they're not that popular. I've not been in them. It's not really my crowd, and we're not big drinkers. So it tends to be not that popular, definitely a bit of an older crowd, but often there's lots of live music, which is quite cool. That seems to be something quite popular for the nightlife in Sanur. Tamblingan is actually a really long road, so it's been a bit difficult to film it because it takes, I think it's about more than 2 kilometers. The road is about half an hour to walk end to end, and I don't have the time. So I'm jumping back to my bike to drive a bit further, stop, and then continue. Some traffic waiting just for one guy to get into a taxi. So as we're walking further up the high street, you can see that it's starting to get a bit less crowded, a bit less popular with cafes and restaurants. Not so much going on the further you get down the street, but right next to me here, the old Starbucks. You know that Sanur must be at least a bit on the map if there's a Starbucks here. So it's not like it's in the middle of nowhere with nothing going on. It's still touristy, still developed, just a little bit less than some of the other areas of Bali, but maybe that's pros and cons, maybe that's good for you. And still being in a part of Bali, you will see loads of these little shrines where they put offerings. I think every business is supposed to have one at the highest point, so you will see it a lot. And as you could just see in front of me, it's also quite nice because there's lots of people riding bicycles, which is nice. It's quite an easy, more relaxed with the traffic, not so busy, so you don't have to worry quite so much about the dangers of the road. So that can be quite a nice thing to do. Less so on this road. I think it's nicer on the beachfront. Still a nice thing to do, quite easy to cycle around in Sanur. So as you can see from walking around, it's definitely not dead. There's life to it. So I think the Snore nickname is a bit harsh on it because there is definitely life here and vibrancy and nice cafes and restaurants, but I think you would say that definitely the crowd is older. You do see a lot of tourists pushing in suitcases and walking around, but the fact that it is for families and older people is definitely true to a certain extent. But I think Snore is a bit harsh because there's definitely life to it. You can find those really nice cafes and restaurants, so it depends on your lifestyle. So one thing I will mention as I drive a little bit further up this high street, this one behind me, which is Icon Bali. So it says right there on the signs, state-of-the-art cinema complex, 1,000 car parking, beach sunset laser water show. This is kind of a good example that I think Sanur is changing. They've been building this for ages. So not only does it add a load of traffic and big trucks to these roads, but Sanur definitely will be changing, becoming more popular and more developed. Pros and cons with that, you know, if you like the quiet beach lifestyle, you might not always have that, but it does show progression, I suppose. And you know, cinema is something, if we want to go watch a movie from Sanur, we have to drive into Denpasar, so it's progress, but maybe not always in the best way. They're also building the massive Mayo Clinic hospital and some other big constructions like Inner, so Sanur is definitely going to change over the next few years. Some for the better, some for the worse. Even though this area is a bit quieter, like I said, there's still a ton of massage places and tourist shops even this far up the high street. This is also a restaurant that we really like that's called Glass House. Just quite nicely done. Good food available there. So by now we are almost approaching the end of Jalan Danau Tamblingan. It's not quite the end of the high street, but it's about as far as I'll go. I'll show you a few more shops and we're going to end up in the night market. And just over there is my favorite spa. Only 100k, you can get a full body aromatherapy massage. So this is my go-to for spa and massage. So arriving here at the Sanur night market, Pasar Sindu, that marks the end of Danau Tamblingan and almost the end of the high street. Not quite, but not too much more. So that was what Sanur was like. You can see it's not totally dead. I do think that Snore is a bit of an unfair nickname because although the crowd is definitely generally a bit older, there's still a lot of life here, really cool cafes and restaurants, so just a bit of a different lifestyle. So what do you think? Would Sanur suit you? Let me know down in the comments down below. I'd be interested to hear. If you want to see some more videos, I'll leave this video up here. You can see the guided beachfront walking tour of Sanur. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more budget, lifestyle and travel, and I'll see you in the next one.